welcome to this video where I'm going to be looking at Teams creations. During lots of companies that I've been working with recently and institutions as well, um, there's been differences around how people create teams, whether these are created internally by a central team, people have free access to create teams as they please, or that there is an approval process behind this. It's a really interesting factor because lots of people are doing this in different ways. There seems to be no wrong or right way of doing it, and it's dependent on your organization or your institution. Only last week, I put out a tweet and a LinkedIn message just trying to gather some information around what it is people are doing with creation of teams. And I was quite surprised with the response I got behind this. So, as you can see from here, these these tweets and the messages that were portrayed back were a lot of people saying there's internal submission process or approval process that happens, and then a central team tends to deal with this. It's really interesting to see because historically, if maybe a year ago, 18 months ago, I'd asked this question, I bet a lot of people would have said they just allow users to create teams as they please. Um, but when you expand on some of these tweets, these messages, a lot of them are around the approval process. I know within some of the organizations I've been working with recently, when I'm asking them about their approval process, it's very mixed in what it is they're doing, whether these are a SharePoint form that is filled out within a SharePoint list, and then someone centrally has to approve this, or whether they're just sending out an email requesting it, or maybe it's even a paper form. It's really interesting to see the different ways that people are doing this. So as you can see, people have gone through this process in different ways. Something for me was trying to get this done as easy as possible because it doesn't need to be challenging, does it? It doesn't need to be problematic for the end user. So I've actually looked at the different ways of doing it. Lots of information online, and people have offered ways of doing it. There's things through Power Automate, there's things through Power Apps, and there's something that I've taken on and looked at developing better way of doing it. So if we have a look at this process here, I've actually created a Power App that will go off and people can request a team and it will send a request through. So what people would need to do is put in their team name. So they can put in the name of their team. This is what the name will be. They can add a description around that team. So this makes it stand out for what the team is being created for. So the approver can actually see why this team needs to be created. We can put in a template. So we can select our actual template. So this is where we can differentiate how the team is created. So a lot of the time in these approval processes, the team is created just with nothing in, just a general channel. Whereas we can actually create templates in Teams, which will then go off and it will create the channels for us. It will change the settings. It will lock it down to how we want our team to be created. So a standard one will just be using a few standard settings. And then if we select a secure team, then it's going to lock it down a lot more. Things like disallow guests or turn off gifts. However you want to do this, you can change within these templates. We will need to put in our owner of the team. So this is selecting who's going to be the owner. As always, we'd always want to select 2 or more owners within our team. Next, we can put in some members, and this will actually search our Office 365 for these members, and it's going to add these members automatically. The final option is to select whether our team is a private team or whether we want to make it a public team. So for this instance, we're going to select private. Once all our details are in, we can hit that submit button, and it will go off and start that approval process for our team to be created. As you can see, the person who is the approval person will get an email through to them where they can approve or reject this team that's been requested. It becomes a real streamlined way of doing it because you're not having to go into any other applications. It will just come through in an email. Once you approve that team, then it will trigger off a flow in the background to create the team for us. As you can see, as this has been approved, our finance department team is now here. We've got our channels, that automatically created for us. I don't have to create these. These channels will be created by the process that's in place. If we look at the manage team and go in and actually look at the settings behind it and check our membership permissions, we can see that it is locked down because we chose that secure team. It is locked down the settings for us, so we know after the team is created, we don't need to manually do these. Again, we can see it's changed some of the settings. We're stopping people and allow memes uploaded. We've just locking this down a lot easier. It's added our owners and our members to this team. If we have a look now at what's actually happening behind the scenes, we can see in here that it is quite a big Power Automate flow that is being created, and we do need to have the Power Automate premium license because we are using the HTTP aspect. But it's going to run a few things in here. It will go through the process of creating our team. It contacts Microsoft Graph, and we can see that this isn't just your standard sort of small, I guess, Power Automate, but it shows the actual power that we can use in these flows to create our teams. So as we can see, that the process is a bit complex. It's not like a few clicks of the button and we can create this process for us. But it's just something I've been playing with, and it just shows the way that Office 365 Suite, without having to use any third-party tools, this is just using the standard Office 365 Suite. We don't need to make our approval process so complicated for the user. Simply open a Power App, put in the details, press submit, approver gets an email, they can approve this process, and then real easily the team is created for us with settings in. That's what makes it great for me, is the fact that our settings are already in there, our channels are already created, any tabs we want as well, we can create them because we're using templates. So many times we see these teams created and then the user then needs to go in, change all the settings, change channels, change anything they need to add in. Whereas we can create these templates and the process becomes a click of a button, another click to approve, and our team is there ready to use for that user. I'd love to know how you're doing this process already, or maybe you're taking advantage of this way of doing it. I'd love to hear what people are doing. As I said, thank you for the people that have tweeted already and contacted me on LinkedIn. It's a brilliant way of just finding out more. And I'd just love to know what you think of this process. If you could see yourselves taking advantage of Power Apps and Power Automate to create this process.